here on the trade show floor. And up next here on Market Journal, it's our chance to catch up with Nebraska Extension's Eric Hunt as we talk about all things weather. Eric, this week I understand you prepared a both spring and summer outlook. I hope that outlook includes lots of moisture because we certainly need it across the Cornhusker State. What are you seeing?
Well, thanks, Bryce. I do indeed have a seasonal outlook today. I do want to start by talking about next week, just real quick. We are going to be dominating upper-level ridging at the start of this next week. That's going to be an ample sunshine, lighter wind speeds, and temperatures getting in the 60s and maybe even the 70s for a good portion of the state on Monday and Tuesday. Probably cooling off slightly Wednesday, Thursday. And by the end of the week, we're going to be turning our attention toward a trough moving into the southern plains. And that right now looks to bring a pretty good chance of rain for the entire state, with the possibility of getting some snow across portions of the Sandhills and the Panhandle. Now, again, it's a little too early to say exactly how this will shake out, but right now there is a pretty good chance of a lot of the state picking up at least a half inch of rain out of this. This will be good news because the ground will certainly hold it. In terms of the CPC, they're also kind of bullish on precipitation across the state, certainly in the western United States, drier to our south. They are favoring warmer than average conditions in the eastern United States, colder in the west of the troughing. I do think these above average temperatures might be just a little bit on the generous side during portions of this period. Okay, now getting the seasonal outlook. Right now we are currently still in La Nina with the cold sea surface temperatures being primarily focused here in the central Pacific. We call this a Modoki La Nina. But we have noticed the sea surface temperatures coming back up here across the eastern side of the Pacific Basin with the upwelling decreasing. And we are expected to go back into neutral conditions here later this spring, and we should be remaining in neutral conditions through the summer. There is still some chance we could be back in La Nina or stay in La Nina through the summer. There's even a slighter chance that we could be in an El Nino by the time we get into the fall. The seasonal forecast in terms of temperature looks pretty similar to what we would see in the springs after La Nina. That's warm south and east and cooler toward the northwest, where we tend to have more troughing. And if we take a look at the analogs that I think are probably the most useful for this year, we do tend to see cooler temperatures across the Pacific Northwest, and including portions of western Nebraska, warm to our south and to our east as a general rule. Really what this means for us is we do have a lot of ups and downs. We've already seen quite a few swings here across this portion of the country in recent weeks, and I think that's a trend that's going to continue for the foreseeable future. The CPC is showing drier than average favorite across pretty much the western three quarters of the state, and particularly across the southern portion of the high plains and the southwest. I think a lot of this is going to determine how much southwest flow we get this spring. If we can get some deeper troughs coming into the west, rolling out here in the central plains, I do think we stand a chance of picking up some very beneficial moisture across the central plains and western Corn Belt. If we don't have that southwest flow, I do think there's still a chance that eastern Nebraska could do okay, but most of the rest of the state would miss out on good moisture in the next couple of months. Seasonal drought outlook shows basically the entire state staying in drought or going into drought as we head through the end of May. And the CPC's outlook for the summer precipitation is not necessarily great news for a lot of us, showing drier than average favored. Take a look at analogs, though. I do think this year does have some possibility to be a bit more like 2021. That also was dry, kind of like what the CPC showed. However, that was not catastrophically dry, and we had some decent moisture that spring going in, so the dryness at times that summer wasn't quite as much of an issue as it was in some recent years. CPC is also favoring warmer than average across the entire western United States. That leads me to think that they are definitely favoring western ridges, which is definitely something that I have been seeing. And I do think that if that comes to fruition, that would keep the heat more to the west, and I think that would allow some cooler fronts to come down and give us some chances of precipitation. And this is the 2025 winter temperature precipitation roundup. Back to you, Bryce.